Hi, I'm Reverend Jake Zabe, and welcome to Children's Bible Stories. Alright children, our Bible story today is going to be the appearance of Jesus to the seven. So, sometime after the last appearance of Jesus to the 12 disciples, 7 of his disciples were down by the Sea of Tiberias. That's also known as the Sea of Galilee. And amongst them was Peter, and there were the 2 sons of Zebedee, James and John. And the Bible also tells us that Thomas was there, and also that Nathanael was there. The Bible then mentions that there were 2 others there, but it doesn't tell us exactly who. Now, we don't know exactly which of the other 12 were present there. We could probably assume that since Peter was there, that maybe his brother Andrew was there. And also, since we had Nathanael there, maybe Philip was there as well, since Philip and Nathanael were like best friends. So they were all sitting down there by the Sea of Tiberias, and Peter was like, "I'm hungry, let's go fishing." So he ran and jumped in his fishing boat, and all the others came with him, and they all went and jumped in their fishing boat. It was about evening when they went fishing, so late in the afternoon, and the Bible said that they went fishing all night. So they were sailing under the stars, fishing all night, but they were unable to catch anything the entire night. But the Bible says that early at daybreak, when the sun was starting to come up, so get rid of the stars, Jesus came walking along the shore, and he saw them out there, and he called out to them and said, "Have you caught anything?" And they're like, "No, we've been fishing all night, and we haven't caught a single fish." And Jesus says, "Well, I see you've got your net on the left side of the boat." Which side's the left here?
That's the left.
And so Jesus says, "How about you take your net and throw it onto the right side of the boat, and I bet you'll catch a lot of fish there." And so the disciples threw the net on the other side of the boat, and the net started to become so full with fish that the net started to break. There was so many fish there. And Peter realized that it was Jesus on the beach. Now, the reason Peter remembered this is that in the Gospel of Luke, we're told that back in the early days of the ministry of Jesus, after Jesus was giving a sermon, he'd done this miraculous catch of fish with Peter. So in that story, Jesus had been doing a sermon on the seashore using Peter's boat. And after the sermon was finished, Jesus took Peter out into the water, and he told Peter to cast his nets out there, and Peter caught so many fish that James and John had to come in their boat to help carry the net, and there was so many fish in that net that it was starting to pull the 2 ships underwater. And so this miracle here with the miraculous catch of fish with the 7 disciples here was very similar to the earlier catch of fish that Jesus had done with Peter. And it was by that Peter recognized it was Jesus. And so he jumped into the water, and he swam all the way to the beach. And then, as the other disciples came in dragging the net, which was so full of fish, Jesus said, "Can you go and grab me a fish from the net?" And so Peter went out, and he helped all the other disciples drag the big net of fish in. And the Bible tells us that the net was so full of fish, the nets were breaking, and that there is exactly 153 fish in the net. Now, we don't know exactly why that number was so important. Maybe it just happened to be that that was the number of fish that was in the net. Some people think that since Jesus was telling his disciples to go off and become fishers of men, that at that point in time there was 153 nations on planet Earth. But we also had a lot of tribes and little people groups like that, so maybe not the reason. All we know is that the Bible tells us that there are exactly 153 fish in the net. And so Peter went and he got a fish for Jesus, and Jesus and Peter had got a campfire going so that they could cook some fish for breakfast, and Jesus sat down and ate the fish with his disciples. And the Bible tells us then that this was the 3rd time that Jesus had appeared to his disciples after being raised from the dead. Now we know that in the Gospel of Luke, Jesus appeared to the two disciples on the road to Emmaus, and at the end of that story, St. Peter also says that Jesus had appeared to him, and St. Paul tells us about a couple other resurrection appearances of Jesus in the epistle to the Corinthians, but this was the third time that Jesus had appeared to his 12 disciples. So there was the 2 times there with the story of doubting Thomas, and now this was the third time Jesus appeared to his disciples. And so that's our story for today, children. Hope you've enjoyed this video. I've been your host, Reverend Jake Zabel. Goodbye and God bless.